Hello, everyone. Welcome to GeoDeploy. How's everyone doing? Great, great. I'm AJ. I'm a head of product here at Geo. I want to spend some time with all of you talking about our product journey, vision, and the roadmap, and share what's coming up in next few months with you all. We live in a very interesting times, to say the least. But if history is any lesson, we can all agree that crisis drives innovation. And it is our opportunity to come out of it on the other side with a much better and a productive future. If you think about cloud, right, and if you look at the history of cloud, starting with all the way 1960s, it has made incremental progress every single decade. And most of these progress is actually fueled by some sort of a crisis or another. There's never been a great time to be a developer. Every single aspect of our life today has been ran by software. Getting up early in the morning, having this alarm clock, having a cup of coffee or ordering your favorite coffee from a barista or ordering your food, playing with your kids these days, video games and whatnot. You get it. Like there's a lot of software embedded into every single aspect of our life day to day. And what is more interesting is that every single of these apps that are being built, they are increasingly using cloud to get started, to power their creativity, to build those business apps and whatnot. And there's a simple reason behind that, right? Because that's the beauty of the cloud. Because to starting a new app or a new application of business, what used to take a really significant amount of upfront investment, we're trying to find out, where am I going to purchase these servers from? Where am I going to host them? How am I going to network them? All that has been gone away. It's been taken away by the innovations of the cloud, right? You just log on to any cloud provider, just click with a few clicks, you can end up finding a right size of virtual machines or, some PaaS offerings or database or whatnot. It's a really simple on-demand provisioning of infrastructure and essentially unlimited access to compute and storage with pretty much zero upfront CapEx investment. And that is really, really powerful, right? Within a weekend, somebody can come in and start a prototype and get the app running in a cloud, what used to take, arguably probably, weeks, if not months. Let me tell you a story. I have a boy who's 13 years old, who's studying how to code in a school, right? He's learning how to code in a Python. And, me working in the cloud industry for about a decade plus, I was all excited about to show him, what kind of innovations that my team has been making, this app platform that we've been working on and how easy it is to scale from, one VM to 10. So he was sitting right next to me and I wanted to show him the power of running his favorite game on one of those containers and show him with a slider, I can go from 1 to 10 containers like this, right? And while I'm moving the slider and hit save and I'm looking at his face and I'm expecting some really amazing reaction, right? It takes about 4 or 5 seconds. The game's running on 10 containers like that. And I'm looking at his face and he goes like, wow, Dad, that was slow. Yeah, you all get a point, right? The cloud has made things so easy these days. And especially with the new generation of the developers, they take all the stuff for granted. What used to take me, I made a career and out of going to customer sites, setting up the web farm, setting up the load balancer, setting up the firewall, the security checks and whatnot. What used to take 2-3 months just happened in a few seconds. And today's generation and the future developers are taking these stuff for granted. And that is the power of cloud. And what's more interesting, the expectations we have and the expectation that these new generation of developers have are only going to drive further amazing innovation in this space and try and make things more and more simple for all of us. So that is really exciting. That is the true power of a cloud. And that's why I say it's really exciting time to be a developer today. Talking about developers, right? Geo has built the entire company and the brand around essentially serving for the developers, right? If there's one thing that truly differentiates us from other cloud providers is our relentless focus on super serving the developers. And it starts with our vision, right? What is our vision? Our vision is to simplify cloud computing so developers, businesses can spend more time creating software that changes the world. And that's powerful. And from day one of our existence, we've maintained that intense focus onto the needs of our developers. Whether it's someone trying to run a personal passion project, a small team getting together, prototyping or hacking a small app to start their SaaS business, or a medium-sized or a small business, right? They're trying to bring their cloud infrastructure or their needs onto our platform. Our goal has always been, how can we provide a most frictionless and a simple cloud experience for this customer segment? I briefly talked about our product team philosophy at the keynote, and the philosophy is really simple, right? We essentially say, be careful what you measure, because that drives behaviors. What I mean by that, every single product person on my team is super focused on measuring the success by fulfilling the requirements and needs of these individual developers, SMBs, and startups, and not the large enterprises. By doing that, it has allowed us to build the products that are simple, scalable, with predictable pricing. Every customer that interacts with our product, that leaves with a feeling that it is built just right for them. And that is really powerful. Let's talk about our promise to the entrepreneurs, the devs, startups, and SMBs. It's, again, threefold, really, really simple. It starts with simplicity, providing the excellent service, and providing a scale at the right price. So let's talk about simplicity a little bit, right? And you're going to hear about this theme throughout the DO Deploy session from our fellow Shark, because that's something that we live and breathe by. We might not have all the bells and whistles that you find at the other cloud providers, but nobody can outdo us when it comes to simplicity. We got that nailed really, really well. And that simplicity starts not just with the product, right? It starts with our amazing documentation. It starts with our user experience, in-product experience, with our pricing, right? It starts with ease of creating a droplet to a Kubernetes cluster or an app platform where you point us to your GitHub repo and we go build it for you. You name it, all the experiences are outright simple. There aren't many cloud providers, who can spin up a VM under 55 seconds. It's just that simple and quick. And we take a lot of pride in doing that. And trust me, there's a lot of engineering work and the complexity that we take onto the back end to provide that simple experience out to our customers. Let's talk about a pricing for a minute, right? Or a billing for a minute. We all can agree that to understand your bill, you do not need a PhD. Our industry-leading billing and a predictable pricing is a great example of the simplicity that we do in everything that we bill. If you think about it, right, starting with our bandwidth, we provide a flat and a generous bandwidth that comes with all of our droplets and all the products. And we do not charge you a different bandwidth price regardless of which region that you are deploying your application is, whether it's Singapore, whether it's London, whether it's US. You get it, right? We take on that additional cost of running that bandwidth for our customers while we can provide you a simple, flat pricing across the world. Not many providers can say that. Take an example of our spaces. Like, we do not nickel and dime on how many gets and how many puts that you are doing to access your own storage. Flat, simple price. You know what you're paying when you access our spaces or object storage, regardless of which part of the world that you're coming from. And these are some of those things, every single day. And I hear from our customers that this is one of the biggest and the main reasons behind why they love DO as well, right? And if you compare that to the other cloud providers, let's be honest, there's an ecosystem of startups that just specialize on helping customers know how to read their AWS bill, right? The other day I was looking at some another startup that came up with an AI that essentially predicts what your bill's going to look like on the other cloud providers. We think that's just wrong. Talk about service, right? When we talk about service, we're not just saying, the easier way to support for you guys to connect with our support engineers, not just from writing an email or a system that allows you to file a support ticket, right? We actually mean that when we talk about service, we actually mean that we pour our heart into the community by providing you the right guidance all around your infrastructure needs, application development needs, right? We put a lot of effort and energy besides providing a free support. We have more than 3,000 high quality tutorials, right? Not many companies can say that. And these tutorials are really amazing. They provide you variety of information around infrastructure, different technology, the configuration, the programming languages, like you name it. There's tons of learning resources. And what makes us unique in a way, that this unique combination of a cloud platform that we built with the community around our tutorials, it just makes an amazing, complete learning experience for anybody who's new to cloud, who's trying to build a small business or learn the technology. And that is really, really powerful. We also maintain a DO-led community, which is supported by our community Q&A forums, right, where all the devs and all the customers get together, ask each other questions, and contribute back to help each other out to succeed on the platform, right? Whether it's programming, whether it's infrastructure, how do you get started? Like, there's tons of collaboration happening wide across the community. There's more than 5+ million developers just like you, hanging out at a community, helping each other out. And that is really, really unique, right? One of our core value is, our community is bigger than us. And we live by it every single day. Every customer that I speak with, right? One thing, and there's a similar story that I hear from all of them. I love your tutorials, your documentation. That got me started. And that is powerful. If you think about it, if you think building a platform is difficult, let me assure you, building a community is even more difficult. And when you get them both right, it's magical, right? And our customers, our products, and our community is a great example of that combination. Finally, our promise to our entrepreneurs and SMBs and startups and the devs is around scale. As the businesses scale, and they need reliability, they also need to grow their business with more and more infrastructure, but at the same time they want to do at the right price, right? Many cloud providers can claim to provide the right scale, but not many can provide the scale at the right price. As your application grows, your usage increases, right? And the next thing you know, that the business doing great, but all the bill that you end up having paid to the other cloud providers as you scale is just eating into your business. It does not make your business viable. There is nothing left to reinvest in your business, to innovate and to grow, right? And that is really, really big problem today with the community of developers of smaller startups, right? And this is where platform like DigitalOcean really, really becomes powerful, because you can not only scale your business, your application with that platform, but you can do it at a reliable price and a predictable price that is allowing you to grow the business alongside your application too. So let's talk about simplicity with a choice, right? When we went through this journey of building multiple products out, talking to the developers, it became really, really clear to us that while the majority of the customers or the devs love simplicity, they also value the choice. So what I mean by that, there are a set of customers or startups, who love to have the control over the infrastructure for a variety of reasons, right? Because the managed services might not be providing all the right features they need. They want to roll up their sleeves because they have the experience and the skills within the team to build the technology themselves, while they can save some money, right? So they prefer the power of having control, trying to roll their sleeves up, build the applications out in a favor of saving some money and having a full control. We get that. Then there's a set of customers who are willing to give up the control for convenience, right? And so what I mean by that, they're willing to trade off not managing the infrastructure by themselves. Here's my code, go run that at scale for me, and you manage the infrastructure for me, and we love that experience. We get that. The idea behind that is to be the outlet for all of those desires, right? And we provide that. Let me explain you how and why, right? My head of product marketing, he came up with this quote, and he says that it is by Albert Einstein, not by him. And the quote essentially goes like, everything should be made as simple as possible, but no simpler. And it stays true to the innovations we've been making for the last 2 years. Let me explain you how, right? Let's talk about Droplets. It's our most popular product around the Droplet VMs. It's our core IaaS offering, right? This offering allows you to manage your own infrastructure, roll up your sleeves, have the full control, install whatever you like on the Droplet VM SSH right into it, change the configuration, run the application the way you want, and it comes with a good amount of a generous combination of a vCPU and RAM with a included SSD and a bandwidth. Great way to save a lot of money, do a bunch of stuff that is specific to your application, and have the full control over your own infrastructure. When we started the journey, we started with Droplet. They were our standard offering, now known as the basic offering, right, where we had a shared CPUs for customers at a cheaper price. As the business grew, as we learned from our customers and talked to them, there were a bunch of customers and there was a good ecosystem that wanted a dedicated CPU thread. And we'll listen, right? And over the last few years, we went ahead and introduced our dedicated CPU Droplet fleet, right? Which is things like general purpose compute, CPU optimized compute, memory optimized compute, right? But you get an idea, right? You have a variety of resources, variety of Droplet types that meets your need, and you choose what you like. On that note, we're, again, really super excited to make a new product announcement. You might have heard in a keynote. If not, we are really, really excited to introduce a new SKU to our Droplet family, a storage optimized Droplets, right? That supports applications that are data heavy, that need a low latency processing through a faster NVMe SSD based storage. We heard you, right? And today we are really excited to introduce this new SKU. It is available starting today in 5 of our data centers in 2 regions of US and Europe. And the additional regions are on its way. I hope you're equally excited about the offering too. Another announcement in a Droplet product family that I'm, again, super proud of, right? We believe in providing customers more value for their money. One of our dedicated Droplet fleet or the offering, the memory optimized, is one of the most popular offerings that we have had out there for the last couple of years. And there's increasing demand for that kind of a Droplet. And we wanted to provide more value for our customers for the money. So we have decided to reduce or drop prices for memory optimized Droplet by 11%. And those changes are effective immediately, and they're effective to all our existing as well as the new customers. Thank you. Let's move on to something in between, right? Between the control and the convenience, right? Obviously, there are a set of customers who need full control. There are a set of customers who want more convenience. But then there's this new ecosystem that has evolved over the last 3 to 4 years, especially around cloud native applications, right? People want more and more of way of doing cloud native applications using Kubernetes. Kubernetes has won a lot of mindshare, a lot of momentum, thanks to containers, right? Containers have changed the game dramatically because you can pack more stuff efficiently, the consistency of deployment, whatnot. It is the biggest ecosystem out there, and customers love it. We heard from our customers. They wanted to have that ability on top of Dio. We went ahead and shipped a fully managed Kubernetes service about a year and a half ago. And what's best, again, we're staying true to our principles. We wanted to make it really simple. Few clicks and get the cluster up and running, but at the right price and a really, really amazing price. So we made a decision not to charge customers for the control plane. The control plane that comes for Kubernetes, which essentially what the Kubernetes API is, we give it out for free. All you pay for is the droplets that are running inside a Kubernetes cluster. And you can start and spin up a cluster as little as $10 a month. Think about it. Great way to learn. Great way to start something off the ground in a right price point. That is powerful. And on top of that, all of our services are certified by CNCF. It allows the full, interoperability with the standard tools that we get from Kubernetes ecosystem. And so it's a really powerful learning experience on our platform. Today, we're also excited to announce a new offering, and that is GA, which is our container registry. Obviously, when you deal with containers and Kubernetes, you need a product along the lines of registry that can co-reside and coexist with your clusters, so you get a good performance, good latency out of your application and the configuration. There is no better way to store your container images than to store them in registry that is residing right next to your cluster, right? So we are very excited to announce the general availability of this key service that helps you manage your container images. Finally, let's talk about App Platform, the more convenient side of the world, right? This is our latest platform as a service offering that we launched last month. We're hearing some amazing feedback from our customers, a lot of feature requests. They're loving the momentum and the innovation that has been coming out of this team as a DO as well as the app platform team. So super excited. Let me give you a little bit of an insight into how we build this platform and what goes into it, right? We wanted to build a really modern platform with PaaS, not only just to take the infrastructure burden out of or away from the user to provide more convenience, but we also wanted to build that on open standard. So it's future proof. And it should satisfy even those who prefer to build on top of Kubernetes, since this app platform is indeed built on top of Kubernetes. It integrates directly with your GitHub. You point us where your repo is, and we'll pick up the code and build it for you and deploy and run. It supports many programming languages out of the box, like JavaScript, Python, Ruby, you name it. And if you happen to use a language that is not yet supported out of the box, you can bring your Docker file. Tell us what the Docker file is. We'll build and run your app for you. And you can effectively use the app platform as a container hosting and execution service. So when I say, it's built using open standards, let me give you some insight on what I mean and what kind of technologies that we use. The app platform is running on a fleet of a multi-tenant Kubernetes clusters across the world. And these are the clusters that are essentially a DO managed Kubernetes. So we use our own managed Kubernetes to run these multi-tenant clusters around the world. And as most of you know, right, Docker by default, it provides you, the container provides you the isolation, but the security at the end of it, the kernel is shared. So to solve that situation and that scenario for workload isolation, we end up using another open source project by Google, gWiser. Our network isolation is provided by Cilium. When we take the code and we do the auto build, we use build packs. When you provide us your container, or a Docker file, and when we build your container from the Docker file, we use Kaneko. We provide you a global CDN with every single app platform application as well as static site. The global CDN, the SSL, the DDoS protection, all of it is included, and it's powered by Cloudflare's rock-solid infrastructure. For ingress, with the path-based routing, we use Istio and Envoy. For app monitoring and alerting, we use Prometheus. For app logging, we're using FluentBit. You get an idea, right? That's what I mean by open standard. When you build a powerful platform using such an amazing open standards and open source, your creativity, your innovation pace doubles up. Because at the end of the day, I'm convinced the open source wins. And for us making this sort of a bet on open source and building this app platform on top of it allows us to execute faster and provide a more future amazing services within quarters. We are very excited about this offering, and I cannot wait for you guys to try it out and let us know what you think. As I said earlier, most of the apps or applications, they don't live in vacuum. They don't live in isolation, right? We might not have all the bells and whistles, but we do provide a core basic functionalities to complete your application, because as most of the droplets or compute do not live in vacuum, they need some sort of a storage, they need some sort of a networking, they need some sort of a databases and security aspect, and you name it, but you get it, right, in a way. So some of the storage or a core platform offering that we gave today to help you build the holistic application include things like block storage, object storage, to store object storage as Spaces offering that helps you allow you to store your web assets if you're running a web application or web API onto your Droplet. As your application grow, if you talk to many developers, they will tell you the reasonably complex cloud application will eventually is going to need tons of networking features, right? And the biggest thing that it starts with networking is your application's outbound data, right? We provide you tons and tons of outbound bandwidth included within your compute resource to a point where most of you do not have to pay any bandwidth overage, which is really, really powerful. We also provide you an offering like Managed Load Balancer at a really cheap price. We also provide you firewalls for free. This earlier in the year, we announced, rolled out our private networking feature, VPC solution, and we give it out with every single Droplet for free. On top of that, every application needs to have a public IP, a floating IP that we call, and we give that out for free as well. There is no additional charge for floating IPs. These are all powerful add-ons that help you build a really cohesive application together without incurring any additional new charges. Finally, on our core platform, we a year and a half ago decided to invest into our managed databases, because as more and more applications and developers these days are trying to figure out how to spend more time building the applications and less on things around heavy lifting of database management, upgrading and patching the new version, fine-tuning it, and things along those lines. They just want turnkey solution for the database management or database services. And we decided to invest into 3 key databases, the managed offering, starting with MySQL, Postgres, and Redis. Again, and we take care of the heavy lifting of infrastructure management, database patching, the security patching, the perf tuning, etc. And you can simply turn that on and connect to those databases with a simple connection string within any kind of compute that you've been using on top of Dio. Very powerful. And obviously, no developer experience is complete without having the cohesive story around APIs and CLI and a third-party integration, right? We get it. Most of the developers want to use a programmatic way or command line interface to spin out the Droplet or App Platform or Kubernetes, right? And we do support all the APIs, CLIs to help you get started, automate your application workload, and also some of the standard infrastructure automation tools like Terraform, configuration management tools like Ansible. We support all of those scenarios. On top of that, we provide you a bunch of management tools for free. Like, when apps are in production, they need to be monitored. So we provide you free infrastructure monitoring with our product called Insight. When your team or application is growing, when you're working as a team, you need a way to organize your projects or collaborate with different team members in a way or fashion, right? So we provide you support for things like projects and teams. Again, at no cost. Really great platform to come collaborate, work together without really paying additional on top of what things that should be free to provide you a most delightful developer experience. Finally, let's talk about Marketplace. I'm sure if most of the Dio customers have heard about our Marketplace or have at least deployed through Marketplace, one of our most popular place within our ecosystem for people who are starting with Dio or people who are existing Dio customers to come in and find a pre-configured application or a solution that gets their core scenario up and running really, really quickly. In a Marketplace, you're going to find hundreds of pre-configured one-click applications. The reason we call them one-click, because they're literally one click. Once you select the application and click it, right, all of these base configuration is pre-populated for you to go and just deploy. And these applications are like, the most popular applications are like WordPress, Docker, Plex, Grafana, CloudBees, you name it. And there's more and more open source packages that we keep on adding every week. And that ecosystem keeps on expanding and growing. If I'm correct, we have today more than 150 plus such one-click applications running in a Marketplace that you can deploy either on Droplets or our Kubernetes clusters. And many more to come, right? We're working on supporting application platform as well as our managed databases within this Marketplace ecosystem. So let's recap some of our strategy in Horizon and how the company started, where we started from, what we've been doing so far, and where we are today, right? Early in 2012, as most of you know, or some of you know, we started our journey with a $5 Droplet with SSD. That was the biggest product market fit that got Dio started. And that was an amazing experience for the team. From 2013 to 2016, we spent time to essentially replicate those offerings and build a complete VPS developer cloud with a global data center footprint, right? We spent time building out those great data centers. Today we have about 13 plus data centers around 8 different regions around the world, and many more to come. And starting 2017, 2018, into 2019, we started building all the core supporting offering that allows you to build a holistic application, especially things around block, spaces, backup restore, all the networking features that you talk about, right? And then, last couple of years, we spent a lot of time building more managed offering, moving up stack, where, providing solutions or products that are great for high productivity in the IaaS as well as the PaaS experience space. if we were to recap our product milestone, right, this is where we stand today, right? Is in 2020, as you see, the very fact the majority of our product innovation has been done in the past few years, you can begin to understand the momentum we've been having with the product innovation to serve our customers. And we are 100% committed to maintain that momentum. We're very, very excited to continue to add to this chart in future. So let's talk about some of the things that we have planned to add to this chart and share the roadmap with you guys. So as for the roadmap goes, right, you guys heard last month we shipped our app platform and a static site in GA. First ever perpetual free offering from DO, where you can come in and use free static sites for life, and a really easy way to get started with the PaaS offering with the app platform. Really excited, a lot of good feedback. We're a month into it, and the momentum has been amazing. Today at DO Deploy, we announced 3 new product changes. Again, really excited for the storage optimized droplets, our container registry going GA, and then finally, the 11% price cut to our memory optimized droplets starting today. Okay, these are the 3 big changes and announcement we're making today at Deploy. What's coming from today till the end of a year, per se December, is again our high performance load balancer options, right? We heard from you guys, our current managed load balancer, while it's great to get started, when the load and the application grows or grows to a certain scale, it does not meet your requirements, right? So we are coming up with the offering that provides you a higher RPS and a better performance from our managed load balancer. The offering will come out sometime in December, but you will have an option to just right size or right select the type of load balancer that you need that meets the need for your application. Really excited about that offering. Also, we're working really hard to provide additional droplet choices when you're spinning up a managed databases. Again, we heard from you guys, there are a bunch of customers who need a really large droplet VMs with tons of disk to run some of the database options, right? And today we support a few of our basic standard offering for databases, all the way up to 32 gigabyte and an 8 CPU. But we're going to open up the fleet to allow you to choose our memory optimized droplet, our storage optimized droplet, our general purpose droplets when you're spinning up your database. So you have more option on choosing the right size of a disk RAM that you need to support your application. Again, really powerful. Very, very excited about that innovation too. And that's coming up before the end of this year. Getting into Q1 2021, another offering, we heard from our customers, and they love to have choices. They love things that are simple, but they also want to have a choice around choosing the right processor type, right? They wanted to have an option to choose the latest and greatest Intel hardware that we have within our basic fleet, or the AMD hardware that we're trying to introduce or are planning to introduce on Q1 2021. And they always wanted to go ahead and pick the right SSD disk, right, that are powered by NVMe. So the idea behind that, they want more choices. They want to pick the right and the latest and the greatest hardware and a processor type or a disk type of their choice without doing a bunch of work on their side to trying to manually figure out where their VM lands and whatnot. So we are very excited about this offering. It's planned for Q1 2021. Obviously, it would not be ready for all the data centers. We'll be rolling it out slowly, but I expect to have this ready for US and Europe in Q1 2021, and then soon after that, add the other regions as well. In Q2 2021, we have 3 updates planned for our existing products, for our Managed Kubernetes 2.0, Managed DBaaS, and the app platform. Let me tell you a little bit about the features that we have planned for Managed Kubernetes, right? Where we hear from our customers, they need a support for multi-master, for HA scenarios. So we're going to go and containerize our master or our control plane and provide the support for multi-master. We heard from customers they wanted more and more operators. We support database operators. They wanted storage operators. It's something that we're working on as well. Provide the auto repair for nodes, right? Provide continuous improvement and support to our new and future K8 releases as soon as they come out. Things like on the registry side, they want the image scanning and a security scanning and automated bills On the Kubernetes cluster side, there's a demand to have a shared file system. These are some of the features that we're working to uplift the managed Kubernetes offering, and our plan for Q2 2021. A little bit on the DBaaS 2.0 side, we're working on providing advanced logging and a capability to do better backups and a snapshotting, online migration, support for RBAC, and hopefully few new database engines. And I would love to hear your feedback on what kind of a different database engines would you love to see besides MySQL, Postgres, and Redis. Finally, let me just double click more onto the app platform because that's one of our hottest and newest product innovation, where there's a lot of excitement and curiosity from people and customers to see where this platform is headed, right? So we launched that last month with a good set of feature sets and variety of offering around, starting with free static sites and a dynamic application starting at $5 a month to get you started, a support for managed databases, DevDB, custom domains, background workers, post deploy jobs, build on commit, CLI, monitoring, you name it. Great set of features to build the application out, but that's not enough. And the bug doesn't stop there. The team's already working on producing feature and the support for a variety of other applications and the customer need as well, starting with things like support for GitLab, Bitbucket, providing a support for auto-scaling, right? How do you auto-scale your containers based on your memory, CPU requirements, and number of requests that are coming in? It's a great way to do a cost saving. It's a great way to scale your application up and down when it hits unexpected load. We're working hard to provide that option as well. We're working on providing an option to have a dedicated clusters, right? We heard from our customers who just don't want a simple 1 or 2 or 10 containers. They want to have their own cluster running the app platform with the security isolation, so they can go out and either resell or build a really large application or managed service on top of that. That's something teams working on providing at the end of H2 2021. Also, the team's working to provide a fully integrated onboarding experience as well as features around paid static sites, right? We've been hearing about edge functions, running workers on the edge on a CDN. It's becoming really, really popular. And that's those are some of the areas that teams looking into. How do you provide that serverless kind of an offering onto the edge for our customers to be more productive and stay on that wave of innovation? Really exciting stuff. And again, like I said, the bug doesn't stop there. We'll keep on iterating on this app platform and keep on innovating and provide you more and more options to host the applications and do cool things. Like in some of the things that we have planned, late in 2021, early 2022, is to provide function as a service. I've heard from many, many customers who are super excited about this offering and will love DO to provide that. Now that having this foundation of app platform built on top of open standard with the right technologies, it's a really easy job for us to go out and build the function as a service and give it out to our customers. And things along the lines around pipelines. A lot of people want to automate CI/CD and whatnot, right? So these are some of the things that we have outlined and planned for our app platform. Would love to learn more from you guys. Provide us feedback. What's missing? What you like? What you don't like? What would you like to see sooner? We're love to take that feedback and adjust our roadmap to accommodate, and build the product and the platform out to meet your needs. So really looking forward to hearing from you guys. And I hope you're really excited and give this platform a try as well. Finally, I would like to thank you again for spending time with us today. We have a very strong lineup of amazing, cool sessions by some of our awesome speakers. I hope you're as excited as I am. I recommend you go out and listen to some of these talks that are lined up, like especially around the details around the app platform, how it works. The app platform engineering manager is going to get into details on how we build this technology, what goes behind building that, and how we plan to leverage it. There's tons and tons of sessions from our industry experts and our executives around how to scale the team, how to build the engineering teams and growth hacking on the marketing side. The agenda is full of amazing sessions. So please take your time, go attend the sessions and watch them, whichever tickles your fancy. Again, thank you very much for spending time with me today. I look forward to talking to you guys again soon in the future. Thank you.